Hey, history buffs and truth seekers. Welcome back to the channel where we dig deep into the stories they didn't teach you in school. Today, we're diving into the raw, heart-wrenching, and downright inspiring history of Canada's Indigenous peoples, First Nations, Métis, and Inuit, and the centuries of mistreatment they've endured. From stolen lands to residential schools, this is a tale of betrayal, survival, and unyielding resilience. Buckle up because this one's going to hit hard, but it's a story you need to hear. Let's roll. Chapter 1. Before the Storm, Machineur. Picture this. Thousands of years ago, long before Canada was even a twinkle in anyone's eye, Indigenous peoples were thriving across this land. We're talking over 70 unique languages, vibrant cultures, and communities that knew how to live in harmony with the earth. From the Haida's cedar-carved longhouses on the west coast to the Inuits' ingenious igloos in the Arctic, these were societies with trade networks, governance, and spiritual traditions that rivaled anything in Europe. Estimates say 500,000 to 2 million people called this place home. Life wasn't perfect, but it was theirs, until the Europeans showed up. Chapter 2. The Colonial Crash, Superi. Fast forward to the 1500s. French and British ships start docking, and at first it's all about trade. Indigenous folks are the MVPs of the fur trade, swapping beaver pelts for metal tools. But then bam, smallpox and other diseases hit like a tidal wave, wiping out up to 90% of some communities. By the 1700s, settlers are eyeballing indigenous lands, and treaties start popping up. Sounds fair, right? Nope. These agreements, like the peace and friendship treaties, were often lost in translation. Indigenous leaders thought they were sharing land use. Settlers thought they were buying it outright. Spoiler, the settlers weren't big on keeping promises. By 1763, Britain's royal proclamation says indigenous lands can't be taken without treaties. Cool, but settlers ignore it like it's a parking ticket. As Canada starts to take shape, the stage is set for a centuries-long land grab. Chapter 3. The Indian Act. Enter the Indian Act of 1876, the government's playbook for control. This law was like a chokehold on Indigenous life. It decided who was an Indian, forced people onto tiny reserves, and banned sacred ceremonies like the potlatch and Sundance. Want to leave the reserve? You needed a pass. Want to vote? Not until 1960, buddy. The Act's vibe was clear: assimilate or disappear. Indigenous governance? Crushed. Culture? Criminalized. It was a masterclass in erasing identity. But the real gut punch? Reserves were often on the worst land. Think rocky, remote, no resources. Meanwhile, settlers got the fertile valleys. And those treaties, like the numbered treaties, 1871 to 1921, they promised food, schools, and support, but the government delivered broken promises and starvation policies. It's like signing a contract for a mansion and getting a cardboard box. Chapter 4. Residential Schools. The Stolen Childhoods. Now brace yourselves for the darkest chapter. Residential schools. From the 1880s to 1996, over 150,000 Indigenous kids were ripped from their families and sent to these government and church-run nightmares. The motto? Kill the Indian in the child. Kids as young as 4 were beaten for speaking their language, starved, and worse. Physical and sexual abuse was rampant. An estimated 6,000 plus never made it home. Parents got no answers. Graves were unmarked. Imagine being a kid, torn from your mom's arms, your braids cut off, your name replaced with a number. Survivors tell stories of sleeping in cold dorms, eating moldy food, and living in fear. The last school closed when I was a kid. Let that sink in. This isn't ancient history, it's yesterday's scars. Chapter 5. The hits keep coming. The 20th century didn't let up. In the 1950s, Inuit families were forcibly relocated to the high Arctic, dropped in barren wastelands to protect Canada's sovereignty. No food, no shelter, just abandonment. Many starved. Then there's the 60s scoop, where thousands of Indigenous kids were snatched by child welfare agencies and adopted into non-Indigenous homes. Culture? Gone. Identity shattered. In 1969, the government tried to pull a fast one with the White Paper, a plan to scrap the Indian Act and treaties, forcing full assimilation. Indigenous leaders said, "Not today," and fought back, sparking a wave of activism. By 1990, the Oka Crisis, a 78-day standoff over a Mohawk land dispute, put indigenous resistance on the world stage. Warriors in bandanas facing tanks? That's the spirit of "We're Still Here." Chapter 6. Truth, Reconciliation, in the Fight Today. By the 2000s, Canada couldn't ignore the truth anymore. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission, 2008 to 2015, exposed the residential school horrors, calling it cultural genocide. Its 94 calls to action demanded change, but as of 2025, many are still gathering dust. The 2019 inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, MMIWG, dropped another bombshell. Systemic violence against Indigenous women is ongoing genocide. Over 1,200 cases, and that's likely low. Since 2021, unmarked graves at residential school sites, thousands of them have been found, each one a reminder of stolen lives. Indigenous communities are grieving, but they're also fighting. Movements like Idle No More and Wet'suwet'en blockades show the world. Indigenous peoples aren't just surviving, they're reclaiming. Yet the stats are grim. 25% poverty rate, crumbling reserve housing, and Indigenous kids making up half of foster care cases. The system's still rigged. Here's the thing. Despite every attempt to erase them, Indigenous peoples are still here, revitalizing languages, leading court battles, and building futures on their terms. From Métis artists to Inuit filmmakers, their voices are louder than ever. But reconciliation? It's not just apologies. It's land back, justice, and real change. So what can we do? Learn the truth, amplify Indigenous voices, and call out inaction. Hit that like button if this moved you, subscribe for more untold histories, and drop a comment. What part of this story hit you hardest? Check the links below for resources to dive deeper, and let's keep this conversation going. Until next time, stay curious and keep history alive.